This is the one thing we can review where our dog starts bothering us and jumping all over the place and just wrecking everything. It will actually be appropriate for the thing that we're talking about. You're our own little spunky. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And unless you're a real 90s kid, you don't know what any of that stuff was I was talking about. I'm like the 90s kid daywalker. Because I was born in 1984, so I'm kind of an 80s
I was born in 86, so like I'm totally with you. Like,
yeah, you're a little bit definitely more in the 90s camp. But yeah, I got those extra 2 years in there, so I have nostalgia for stuff in the 80s, but when I think about my childhood, it was mostly watching stuff in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I kind of hate a lot of stuff from the 90s. So yeah, I don't know what exactly I count as, but I do know that I was a big fan of Rocko's Modern Life.
Oh, same here.
I actually think it was probably the smartest of any of the Nicktoons out there at the time. Which, as I was watching this thing, it did come back to me that, oh yeah, this was kind of like the smart version of Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Because I forgot how gross it was too, and I'll admit, watching this, a lot of it didn't quite hold up. A lot of the grosser humor in here, it didn't really hold up. It was like, oh man, we kind of like, we've moved past that shock value. But watching all this satire that they were doing in here, it made me remember, this is exactly the stuff that they would do on that cartoon, and it was at a time when no one was doing this kind of stuff. And I love television and movies that are basically meant to just be satire of regular life.
Yeah.
And I think Rocko's Modern Life is a thing that did that for me. That got me on that path.
It's literally in the title.
Exactly. Because after I got done watching Rocko's Modern Life, I really started to just kind of fall in love with Seinfeld and a lot of sitcoms right after that that were doing the same thing except on a more mature level. And I think that Rocko's Modern Life was kind of like the gateway for a lot of kids as they became teenagers and more older, more mature entertainment at that time.
Yeah, it's like Rocko, I felt like definitely like shaped my sense of humor.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, the three original Nicktoons were Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy, and then Rocko came along.
Yeah, Rocko was like the second generation.
Yeah, so like before Rocko, I would watch Ren and Stimpy, and I feel like Rocko was more my speed. Like I felt like Ren and Stimpy was a bit too exaggerated.
I remember really liking Ren and Stimpy when I was a kid, but man, it's one of those things that the moment I grew out of that, I look back at it and just went, oh god, this was not good. Ren and Stimpy was so just about how much can we gross the audience out? How weird and exaggerated can we?
Honestly,
and a lot of the animation holds up. A lot of the animation is still really impressive. And whenever they weren't trying to be like just super gross and they were actually trying to be clever with stuff, they actually were kind of clever. Like a lot of the space things that they did on Ren and Stimpy were actually
I just really liked how like silly it was. Like just the happy, joy song.
Which yeah, that's one of the reasons why it appealed to kids.
Yeah.
But they also, because they were trying to be so gross, they were also considered like the bad boys of cartoons. So it got an older audience. But I think that for my generation, a lot of people who grew up enjoying the silliness of it, when we got older, we started to see like, oh yeah, you're just kind of like throwing out there like really gross visuals and stuff just kind of to get that shock value in there.
But with Rocko, it's more refined. There's actually like the...
Rocko's Modern Life, when something was gross, it was because they were trying to make a statement about something.
Yes, and also like the more inappropriate humor, quote unquote, was a bit more subtle.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, there is in the very first episode of Rocko's Modern Life, there is a sex joke in there that I didn't get for years. It wasn't until I was in college, and somebody was going, "Hey, you remember Rocko's Modern Life when you were kids?" Oh yeah, we were talking about jokes we enjoyed. And he goes, "Oh, you remember this joke from the first episode?" I went, oh my god. But yeah, in the first episode, it was Rocko trying to get a job.
Yeah.
And he goes to and he's just at a phone line.
He's like,
phone line.
Yeah,
he's just
like,
an operator.
Yeah,
you don't know what he's doing. He's just on the phone, and he's just going, oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. And then it cuts to Mrs. Bighead, his next door neighbor. Rocko? You just hangs up. I didn't know what that was about when I was a kid.
No, it's like...
Yeah, but it's just shocking me that they were able to do stuff like that, and it worked, and they were not afraid to make commentary on stuff.
Yeah.
I remember like their big Thanksgiving episode. That thing ends with a Native American showing up to sue Bighead because his ancestors stole the land from him. Which again, you look back at now, it's like, we don't even make that kind of commentary on adult entertainment out there. That is really bold that a children's entertainment show would do that.
And then there was like the recycle episode where It's like, yeah, gotta take care of the environment, but also it's kind of the big corporations that are ruining it. So.
Exactly, yeah. Which, that's the thing that, as I said, Rocko's Modern Life, it was really the only show aimed at kids that was satirizing the real world in that way. Because there were shows out there that was supposed to be like sitcom-ish for kids that were set in a realistic style world, like Goof Troop. Goof Troop, it was, hey, Goofy's raising his son, he's living in the suburbs, like Picket Finch, his neighbor has got all these nice things, and he doesn't have any of these things. Peach, stop doing that. Yeah, but Rocko's Modern Life, it was, no, we're going to talk about a lot of big things, and we're going to just exaggerate them just enough. I think that was part of the genius of that show. And coming in here and watching this, for anybody who doesn't know, we're not talking about the Rocko's Modern Life entire television series. We're talking about the Static Cling special that just went up on Netflix.
Yeah, but obviously you can't talk about the Static Cling special without talking about the original series.
Yeah, that's the thing about this, because I thought they were going to come in here and try and like reintroduce, like reboot Rocko in a way, like reintroduce him to a new audience. No, if you do not know anything about Rocko's Modern Life, this has no purpose for you at all. They do not. This thing literally begins 20 years after the last episode, and the last episode had them,
had Rocko, Heifer, and Filbert.
Yep. All getting blasted into space. And I remember that episode when I was a kid, but I didn't think that was the last episode.
Neither did I. It's like,
because back in those days, you didn't have like an internet, which like on Twitter, it would go, Rocko's Modern Life has been canceled, final episode will air on this day.
You had no like idea. You had like no concept of time or like...
Well, also like they would not come out here on television and say that was the final episode.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that stuff.
Yeah.
They would just air episodes.
And then they would air reruns, and you were like, okay, so when's the new episode coming? And it never comes.
It just like starts all blurring together, and then you see episodes that were old, but you had never seen them before, so you thought they were new, so you didn't know they were going in.
It was a weird time.
Man, I remember when I was a kid, the one that got me the most was the Simpsons Halloween special that ended with Homer waking up and he had Mr. Bird's head sewn on his shoulder. And then after like Homer freaks out about it, it says, next week on The Simpsons. And it showed him just there at the dinner table with Mr. Burns' head still on his shoulder. And I thought that was actually going to continue. And then the week after that episode aired, I didn't get to watch it. And I was so bummed. And then, like, several months later, they reran the Halloween episode. And it said, next week on this, I was like, okay, I gotta see this time. And then, again, I didn't get to watch TV that week. So I literally spent years going, how did Homer get Mr. Burns' head off his head? You didn't know back in those days when you were a kid, you didn't know, okay, yeah, there's like an order. Some things don't actually lead into other things, but some things do lead into other things. It was wild being a kid with television before the internet because you didn't know what was going on behind the scenes with anything. So, yeah, it was so weird to me watching this and be like, oh, so that actually was the final episode. But they end up getting blasted back down to Earth. And a giant chunk of this entire thing is just them going around and seeing how much the world has changed. They're parroting iPhones, they're parroting energy drinks.
And Starbucks.
Food trucks, which that was a weird one to think about. Oh yeah, I guess that is like a big thing that wasn't around back then. Food trucks.
I mean, they might have been around, but like they haven't like really hit popularity until recently.
They were not a hipster thing where you came in here going, what's the weirdest, most fucked up combination of food ingredients that we can come up with that no one would allow us to sell inside an actual restaurant. Let's sell that in a food truck. And yeah, they make a joke about how, oh, you get food poisoning from that. And I have eaten very few foods from food trucks, but I know numerous people with food poisoning stories from food trucks. So yeah, it's fair to make that joke about them. But then Rocko discovers that the old cartoon that I used to love, it went off the air while he was in space. The Fatheads, which I completely forgot about that episode, but it was one of the best episodes of the entire series. It was one of the best, like we keep talking about how that entire show was satire, it was one of the best satirical looks at making animation.
Like people behind the animation. And
yeah, like, I think for a lot of kids, that was actually their like first introduction to it as well. You know, them having to go frame by frame, just photo, click, photo, click. I remember that whole sequence in there. So he discovers that the show's off the air. He's going to try and get it back, but the company that Mr. Big Head works for,
Conglamo,
yeah, that ends up going broke, And now they decide, well, the only way that we can get money back is if we start selling Fatheads merchandise again. So we need to remake the Fatheads. And Rocko is trying to find Mr. Big Head's son.
Yeah, Ralph.
Ralph, and but the corporate guys, they're going, no, that'll cost money and take time. We can do this for cheap. Mm-hmm. We have guys who work insanely cheap on animation, and then you have the two chameleons come in there, and they're just talking about how, oh, you can make anything happen with computers. Computers are the answer to everything. Which, man, that felt like them just throwing so much shade at like 90% of animation out there these days. Do you know if this was actually still done hand-drawn?
I thought it was.
Because it'd be weird if they came in here and just made jokes about how crappy computer animated TV shows look, and then this was still like done in Flash or something. But they go out and they search for Ralph, and they end up finding him, and he's now selling Fathead Freezy Pops. He's just driving around in an ice cream truck the entire time.
Like, basically, like, he ran off to, like, find himself because he was not happy with himself.
And this is the thing that all of you have already heard about this. It's already been making tons of news, but they revealed that the reason he wasn't happy is because he was transgender and he had to find himself, or herself, I should say.
Yes, she is now Rachel.
She is now Rachel.
Yes.
And listen, I'm not going to like come in here and say, oh, well, there's lots of people who are mad about this. I've actually seen very few people really saying anything about this. I've seen, you know, of course, there's always going to be shitheads on Twitter who are mad about everything. But for the most part, I have seen just tons of applause for this. And listen, neither of us are transgender, so we can't speak from any personal experience on this, but I think they handled it incredibly well.
Yeah, a lot of people were happy with the way they handled this situation.
Yeah.
I know this was something like Joe Murray wanted to do for a while.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, like it was his decision to make Rachel transgender. But it's like, and I think that was one of the reasons why the Rocko special was delayed.
I think it's one of the reasons it also went to Netflix instead of on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Yes, because this thing was definitely meant to come out on Nickelodeon as like an hour-long special with commercials in there. It's on Netflix. They took the commercials out, so it's 45 minutes now. Yeah, it's real obvious why they decided this. It's kind of like when Korra got moved to be on like the Nickelodeon website instead of on Nickelodeon itself. Which, in all fairness, that was also because almost immediately after they made that decision, the villain started choking people to death and just got insanely brutal. Someone's head exploded on there. So it's not entirely because they made Korra and Asami bi, but it's also because, oh yeah, they got really freaking graphic with that shit. But yeah, you look at this and you go, I think I know why you went to Netflix. But yeah, I think that they handled it very well, but also they handled it like Rocko, because I was thinking about some of the other episodes where they dealt with some very real issues that affected major characters, like Filbert's wedding or Heifer finding out that he was adopted. Yeah, they addressed it in almost the exact same way. They addressed these things with like the exact same amount of attention, the exact same amount of coverage, exact same level of seriousness in there. So yeah, I love that they were able to take this issue and they addressed it the same way that they addressed other issues in the show. Which that is one of the things that I really have to give this special a ton of credit for. This thing, Rocko's Modern Life hasn't existed for 20 years. This feels like Rocko's Modern Life. This does not feel like the people who came back to make this were rusty, they've changed over time. Like, a lot of times, people who used to write on The Simpsons during their golden era, they come back and do one special here or there, and you look at it and you go, oh, that's not... Yeah, man, you don't have what you used to have anymore. Maybe it was you needed everybody in the same room together. Maybe, I don't know, some person's changed from this or that. I don't know. I don't know what caused all this to happen, but... Yeah, this is exactly like an episode of Rocko's Modern Life.
And there are so many references to this series in this special.
In all honesty, this almost felt like it wasn't 45 minutes. This felt like it was half an hour because it felt like there was 15 minutes of them just going, it's this character, it's just this random character coming in here. But it never felt forced to me.
No.
It's only really like at the end you saw like a few characters in the big group shot who they stopped to focus on for a second, and it felt like that was the moment to come in here and just go, here's every last character we can fit in here that we couldn't find another place to squeeze in, which it was a party, it made sense to have them all there.
Yeah, it was the big finale, so it all makes sense.
But every other character that they had in there just pop up, it felt like, okay, it makes sense for this character to be here, and it was kind of nice to see them all, to see how many they were able to bring in here. There were so many that I forgot. Like the guy who was selling drones, I forgot about that guy in there. I forgot about the sleazy wolf businessman guy. I forgot about him. I also kind of forgot about Big Head's boss, but as soon as he popped back up, I went, oh, I remember you, and I remember your running gag. And that's the one thing that I have to say. This feels like an episode of Rocko's Modern Life. This feels like a continuation. But that's also to its detriment at times, because, as we were mentioning with Ren and Stimpy earlier, taste has matured, and I looked at a lot of the grosser, cruder humor in here, which it's not a lot. It's not like Ren and Stimpy.
No, no.
Yeah, the running boss with Big Head's, the running joke with Big Head's boss is that he's always picking his nose constantly. Yeah, that joke is still here, and when I was a kid, I was like, they're making fun of this guy. Okay. Now I'm just like, that's just really a dumb joke. That's just, yeah. So there's a couple jokes in here that I honestly looked at and just found to be sort of unnecessary. But it's not like you could get rid of them.
No.
Because then it wouldn't be Rocko's Modern Life. I'm just saying, yeah, some of the jokes, Rocko's Modern Life aged incredibly well, but there are some things that I feel did not age all that well. And if you're going to make this thing feel 100% like Rocko's Modern Life, you gotta kind of include that stuff in there. So I see why they didn't tap anything down or try and change anything, but yeah, I do have to come in here and mention that. I don't know if you felt the same way or not.
It's like, the thing is, they always show him picking his nose, but you never like see him with a booger jar.
Oh, in the old show?
No, yeah.
Yes, okay.
So I was like,
There is a joke about him, like, collecting the boogers. There's a joke about, like, it falling on Big Head's head and he's just covering something that... Yeah, that was... Nah.
I could have done without that, but that was just... That's easily overlooked compared to everything else, honestly.
Yeah, I remember in the very beginning when... Heifer, it was revealed that the remote for the rocket that was flying them through space was just trapped between his butt cheeks. That was the moment in which I went, oh, I forgot how crude this show could be at times. Well, better just accept that stuff is coming back, and yeah, that stuff came back. But for the most part, aside from that stuff, and again, it's not like it's overbearing. It's not like it's...
No.
It's not, again, like Ren and Stimpy, where you go back and you watch some of those things and some of the crude jokes that they'd make in there and just go, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is just more like, all right, roll your eyes, let's just move past this thing.
It was funny when you were a kid.
So yeah, there's not a lot else to talk about on this because this thing is only 45 minutes long, but this is a great comeback. And as I said, I kind of had that feeling going into this that they were going to try and like reintroduce Rocko to a new audience. They were going to try and reboot him. 0% true.
No.
This is 100% a one-time special that they're coming in here just simply to go, hey, to all the Rocko fans out there, let's give you one last hurrah. And also, I feel like this is a really good last hurrah.
Yeah, and I felt like, once again, as you mentioned before, Rocko's Modern Life is all about commentary, and I felt like this special was on commentary about how, like...
Times change.
Times change, and how fan outrage. And fan outrage, yes. Changing times and fan outrage. Yeah. Those are the two big things.
As we mentioned, it's not like we've seen like a bunch of, like I'm sure there's some asshole who started some petition or something, but it's not like, you know, with a lot of other things that we've seen fan outrage around, but we have seen those few assholes on Twitter just coming in here like, oh my god, they ruined my childhood by making Ralph transgender. At the end of this thing, they have a great reveal. The twist that takes place at the end of this is great, that Mr. Big Head, he cannot accept that Ralph is now Rachel. He can't have any part of this. So, Wallaby, Rocko. I'm a Wallaby. Rocko takes Mr. Big Head, forces him to go to the premiere of the new Fatheads cartoon. And in there, Mr. Big Head is watching this, and he gets like his heart grows 3 times its size, and he goes, oh my goodness, yes, oh Rachel, oh yes, I love my daughter. They all become one big happy family again. But how they do that is that Rachel draws into the new Fatheads cartoon, the Fatheads now have a child, and she puts stuff from her own childhood into that cartoon, and that's what warms up Mr. Big Head's heart. But Rocko is watching this going, wait, no, they didn't have a kid. No! No, you can't change my cartoon! No, you can't do that. I thought that was great. That at the end of this whole thing, Rocko, who's going, oh, things are changing too much, but you know what, we need to embrace change. When it comes to his cartoon, he flips out over it, and he can't deal.
And that's the thing, is like, the fatheads is like the only thing that like he had left to hold on to.
That was what he was holding on to. As long as he still had that. But then at the end of this, when he discovers that, no, everything has changed, and there's too much change, just come in and go, yeah, man, that's life. You just have to accept things change. And I love that. I think that's a very good message, and I thought that it was great to kind of address that, you know, there's going to be audiences out there who are going to lose their mind because, oh, they changed something in this cartoon from my childhood. I thought that was great that they actually used the cartoon in this show that they have used to make commentary about cartoons, to make commentary about how they knew people were going to be mad at this cartoon. And then they came in here and had to just tell them to their face, tell that audience to their face, you gotta accept that things move on, man. Which, yeah, as I watched this, it's not like I was coming in here going, they need to 100% bring Rocko's Modern Life back. I was happy just getting the special. This special
honestly,
was just nice.
yeah. Like,
I didn't need them to bring the show back.
No.
But watching that speech there at the end, I thought for anybody out there who was like, they're gonna bring the show back, I thought it was a great way to come in here and go, no, it's done. And it's okay. There's other things, you gotta move on, man, with your life.
It was nice, but we gotta move on.
Yes.
Like
yeah, I thought that they handled that incredibly well. I thought that was actually kind of genius how they ended this.
And Rocko's just like, okay, because that's just the kind of character
That's the kind of character that Rocko is. Oh, my entire life is different. All right, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was stunning to me how they were able to just completely recapture the tone of the original Rocko's cartoon. Like, they were able to bring back the writers and have them just nail how the show was.
The voice actors and everything.
The voice actors was the next thing I want to talk about. It is stunning to me that these voice actors, you know, they're 20 years older, and they all came back and they just nailed it. Just got it in one. I was listening to this and I wasn't going, well, that character's a little bit different from how they were. No, everybody sounds exactly like they did. Which, granted, most of these people are professional voice actors who have continued to do this for years and years and years and years. But they haven't done these specific voices for years. I mean,
like, I'm sure,
Tom Kenny's been doing SpongeBob nonstop for 20 freaking years. I'm shocked he could get right back into Heifer just like that.
Well, I'm sure, like, at conventions and stuff, like, they'd have, like, bands
they've probably been asked over and over again. That's true.
So it's not like they're completely rusty.
Yeah. And what's great is that now that I'm older, I actually recognize a lot of these voice actors who I didn't recognize before. I had no idea that Mr. Bighead was the red guy from Cow and Chicken. That guy is amazing.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be in way more stuff. That guy absolutely 100% is one of my favorite voice actors out there that really is not putting more stuff because that voice that he does for those characters is so good. That's one of my favorite voices in animation, period. And it was just a treat to be older and now have that ear where I can recognize this stuff and go, oh, it's this. I never knew that. So yeah, I think that this cartoon is great, and it also has probably the line of dialogue that I needed to hear this week after all the crazy stuff that's been going on in the entire world, this entire month, this entire past several years. There's a moment where Rocko is trying to get the cartoon back, and he's talking to Mr. Bighead, and he goes, Rocko, your problems cannot be solved with a simple cartoon. I went, wow. It's like you timed it for this week. Yeah, man, you want to talk about something making commentary? They knew to stop and put that in there. Because they knew the world was going to be a messed up place when this show came out. Oh, hey, buddy. Or a little Spunky. Okay, there's one joke that I did not get. Spunky had a thing for mops?
Did you not see that episode?
Maybe I didn't. Maybe I never remember that.
Like, basically, like, there was, like, an episode where Spunky falls in love with a mop.
Okay, when you say falls in love with, I think I remember that now, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I think that they did a very clever joke about that, where basically Spunky is looking at mop porn, and he's ordering mops off Amazon nonstop, and the delivery guy's like, I know what you're using this for. Which, again, they never, like, go too graphic with that, but it does match the distance that they would go with the joke in the old Rocko's cartoons. It is just, this special really made me appreciate how smart Rocko was, especially for the time that it came out. If you guys have never seen Rocko's Modern Life, you probably have been very confused by this entire thing. I don't know why you're still sticking around, but I know that if you have Verve, it's on one of those streaming platforms. There's like a Nickelodeon, like a Nicktoons Classic streaming service, which don't pay for that. Pay for Verve, where you can get that, Crunchyroll, Shudder, like 20 other things. Why do you love when I count things? I love counting. 1, 2, 3.
Another good thing I'd say about the special is that it got people who did not watch Rocko growing up interested in the show.
Yeah. Which I'm hoping that Invader Zim is able to do that, because we'll review that one as well when that eventually comes out. Because honestly, these were the 2 favorite Nicktoons of mine, Invader Zim and Rocko's Modern Life. So the fact that they're the ones coming back with a special, hey man, I'm doing just fine. I do not need to know what Doug has been up to ever since he left. I don't need to know what happened to Rugrats or, God, I can't remember any of the other ones. But yeah, I loved Nicktoons when I was a kid, but there were specific ones that I hated and everyone else liked, or I outgrew them quick. But Rocko and Invader Zim, I feel, if they spoke to you, they're going to speak to you for your entire life. So I'm glad that we're getting thanks for that. But yeah, let us know what you thought about this in the comments down below. We'll be back next week to talk about whatever's coming out that week. I know that there's something. I said in our Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark video, I'm going to look up and see what comes out next week. I forgot to do that. So it will be a mystery for all of us. But come back for that. And we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.